I used to go see Jupiter One a lot back in the day.
I
So
remember. Yeah, yeah,
no,
yeah. Yeah, yeah. You're very familiar. I was like Darren Paltrowitz. I was like, I know that name. Yeah. So
well, well, the bottom line is, back in the Jupiter One days, we would see you play violin a little bit on stage, but we didn't know that you had it in you necessarily, that you were this huge solo artist that was going to turn into this huge composer, and now you are a director. So this success that you have right now, how much of that was envisioned back in your Berklee days?
Well, in my Berklee days, I was just an instrumentalist. I just want to play jazz violin. And then when I did Jupiter One and I was singing, honestly, I don't think the rest of the guys in the band liked my violin playing. So it wasn't like very manly or something. I don't know. It's a very testosterone fueled like.
Oh, I got to interrupt you there. I mean, your musical cohort was playing the flute and you were playing the violin. It
Okay,
wasn't the only
that's true. All
instrument.
right, I take it back. Okay, I mean, I love jazz flute too, Zach, and he's amazing. But yeah, I mean, it wasn't until I guess I started Kishi Bashi that I just focused on my own voice, and I realized that violin was a big part of my songwriting skill set. So I developed that, and that's why my music's very orchestral.
Yeah, and so now Omoiyari, I hope I'm saying that correctly. How should I say that?
Yeah, Omoiyari, you got it right.
Oh, wow. Who
Yeah.
knew? Well, anyway, having that directing credit, was directing that you want something that you wanted to do years and years ago, or is this a happy accident?
I had, I mean, I went to school for film scoring, so I love cinema and like cinematic music. So that was my skill set. I liked editing. I edited the Jupiter One Van Pilates. That was me. You
Oh,
know,
yeah.
so I was like,
Did
you
you
know,
also, sorry to cut you off, did you also edit the Guitarded?
yeah, that was me. Yeah, I can't really.
Your film credits are spectacular, might I say.
Thanks, man. That's the last. That's the last thing I did. I did another music video for Wait for Springtime, which is an EP that I did a couple years ago. Oh, and I am the Antichrist video. I did that one. I directed that. So
Sure.
yeah,
So,
I
so
like I
film.
like stop motion. I did the Jupiter One countdown video too. So I like stop motion, and when I have the time, I'll put some effort into it. So, but as far as a feature length documentary, no. This is I'm the co-director. Justin Taylor Smith is my partner in this, and I didn't pick up a single camera, for this. It's a lot of it's mostly like them following me, and we set up the shots. I learned how to interview, and kind of like formulated the story based on this idea. It's exploratory.
Right. I find that the timeline for an album is the exact opposite of the timeline for a movie, where the album you could make it at home or friend studio, that kind of thing. And if you want to leak a single, you can leak the single that day. And at most, it's a 3 month build up to an album. Some albums come out as a surprise that day.
Yeah.
Whereas a film, if you're lucky, it's 9 months. If you're really lucky. So, how long did it take you to helm this film?
So we've been starting since 2017. Started filming, and then about halfway through, we started. We were editing at the same time. Justin's the co-director is also the editor, a brilliant editor. But yeah, I mean, so originally Omoiyari, this movie, the song film was supposed to be, with the album, and obviously albums don't take 6 years to make. So Omoiyari the album.
Well, Guns N' Roses albums take 6 years to make.
Some albums, if you have a lot of money and leeway, will take 6 years to come out.
Yeah.
But in my case, I was like, the album's already done. So Omoiyari I released in 2019, and then we kind of slowly worked on it. We thought we were finished with it because we premiered at South by Southwest last year, and then we got bought, and then we got re-edited. We worked with Sheila Evans, our executive producer, who's like documentarian legend.
HBO Queen.
Queen. She ran the movie through her gauntlet,
Yeah.
and really cut it down and helped us make it into like a palatable, very watchable 70-minute film. And so here we are, finally coming out.
Right. How does the final cut compare to what you showed at South by? For example, is it 15 minutes longer, 15 minutes shorter?
No, 20 minutes shorter. 20 minutes shorter, and we had to do what's called killing babies, which is like scenes that we like have personal connections with that just really didn't make sense to somebody who had not seen the movie, so she helped us do that as an experience, like outside, visionary, kind of like really, she's like, what is this person? What do they have to do with it? And they're like, that's her friend. They're like, well, she's not my friend. So it's like,
Well, the upside is, does that mean you get to do the 10th anniversary reissue director's cut kind of thing?
yeah, maybe what, 10 years? You're thinking like 2033?
Yeah, I think that's possible. These days, the anniversary numbers are really, really, really relative. Like the wife and I saw Corey Feldman over the weekend playing live, and he's talking about this album of his as being the 30th anniversary. But you're looking and you go, it's really 29. So I think the numbers are all relative these days.
I think he jumped the gun and like he should have waited a year, but he's probably need the money or something. I don't know.
Well, over to you. So this is not the only thing that you've scored in the film world, and of course it goes back to Berklee, Shrill, Apple TV stuff, etc. What was the first gig that you kind of realized that you were more than just a solo artist and occasional sideman?
Well, I was always a composer, so when I lived in New York and did Jupiter One, I was always like composing on the side, and so so I was a violin instrumentalist, played in the Big Apple Circus, and then and then I was a composer, did jingles and stuff, and so music was always like my job, so I was always doing it on the side. I realized really early on after I graduated Berklee, I did 2 documentaries, that documentary, like movie scoring, especially documentary, is really not pure music. It's a slave to the film. You know what I mean? It's the film always has right away, and they'll turn your music down, and it was really unsatisfying, as a musician, as a composer. And so after I did a couple feature length docs, I kind of abandoned it, just did jingles, and then did music. Violin was my thing. And then I started the rock band Jupiter One, and I think when I started Kishi Bashi, I realized, okay, before I started Kishi Bashi, I was always struggling to try and get jingles. Like, I'd write a jingle for like a commercial, and it would be like, oh, you're so close, and I never really get it. I got it like once, which, yeah, a United commercial a long time ago. But most of the time it's like, oh, you got really close, you get like $250, and then
the demo fee, and
yeah,
you're hoping for the eventual placement fee and then the musician's residuals. So it's either you get that $250 or you get $100,000 over time.
Yeah,
one of those. Yeah,
it'd be a lot of money. I doubt it's $100,000, but if it's a major campaign, but because if they had $100,000, they would just actually license the actual track from the band.
The Coldplay knockoffs don't write themselves.
Yeah. So, anyways, what I realized is that when I started Kishi Bashi, my music, the sound was just like instantly like marketable. Like I was suddenly on the other side of that, getting the licensing fees, and I realized that, oh, I just have to really focus into making honest music for myself, and that's when you put your emotion and you put your vulnerability into it. I feel like that's what people start to hear. And so every time I do a film score, like I take that approach of being like, you have to be genuine in your intent to create music, otherwise it won't really speak to people. And so,
well said. Question a totally different direction. For the umpteenth time, you went to Berklee. You actually finished Berklee, which is very much a rarity for anyone who makes in the music industry. They're supposed to drop out after 2 years. You didn't drop out. But
no.
In terms of influences, before you became so classically endowed, for lack of a better term, were you a metal guy? And I ask that because you can play a lot of notes, but you choose not to play a lot of notes.
I can definitely play a lot of notes. Yeah, I was a metalhead in high school. Like I like Metallica, Pantera, Anthrax, kind of the old school stuff, Anthrax, and then later on, like System of a Down. They were cool. I thought, yeah, I was a metalhead. Megadeth, big.
Did you start off with that heavy stuff, or was it Van Halen, Motley Crue, Kiss, and then you grew to the heavy stuff?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, there's a hair phase in there, Motley Crue for sure. I love Motley Crue. I didn't like Kiss very much. I thought they're kind of like dumb. Zeppelin, obviously. Sabbath, I liked a lot,
And then what was your gateway from that into classical?
Oh, no, I was always a classical violinist. So like, I started when I was 7. And then I was playing like, I think when I was in middle school, I was into new age music for some reason. Like I love like Yanni and like this guy Ray Lynch, who had a best-selling album. And then in high school, late middle school into high school, I got into like rock and metal. I think I got a like mixtape, and I was just like jamming to whatever people sent me. So yeah, I think high school is my metal thing. But so at the same time, I'm also going to violin lessons, playing Mendelssohn and stuff. So they're kind of in the same thing. And I think metal appeals to like teenage, like adolescent males because it's just about posturing and fast. It's like, it's very masculine, almost toxically masculine art form of just like showing off and like just like dominating your fellow musicians. So it's kind of like same in jazz. Jazz is the same. Classical, even one could argue that the concerto is just really just about peacocking. So anyways, that was my high school years. And then I got into jazz later when I went to Berklee. I had already started dabbling in jazz, but I really studied it once I went to Berklee in '96.
My theory is that all the metal guys deep down inside want to be classical or jazz guys, and that's based on watching backstage soundcheck footage of Megadeth warming up on jazz.
You mean like Marty Friedman warming up on jazz? He's a great guitar.
This is post Marty Friedman, but Marty Friedman is a jazz guy. And then you look at Tony Iommi playing flute on a Black Sabbath album, and you just find that the metal classical overlap is there, unlike most genres that are kind of polar opposites. Like you don't see a lot of hip hop people that go, I really want to do country. Or am I wrong about that?
I don't know. Aren't you like the music journalist? Aren't you supposed to like know about that stuff?
Journalist in quotes. Well, back to you for two quick questions before I let you go. The first one is, this is a new movie for us. It is an old movie and project for you. Are we allowed to know what's coming next from you in the near future?
Oh, I haven't really thought about it. I'm just trying to get through life right now. I'm working on, I've got a new album. I pretty much finished this movie in the spring, last spring. So this is just promotional to me. So it's really exciting to kind of like finally be able to show this to people and get the reactions. But on a personal level, artistic level, I'm working on new music for a new album next year. That's like completely different. And then there's also it's a social justice kind of based documentary. So there's a lot of stuff that we didn't cover, and so there's a lot of loose ends of like footage that we have of like a lot of different things like that I want to cover. So maybe like kind of pursuing those things so that we do justice to the various people that we interviewed and like have more stories that are tangential.
Sure.
Short.
And the last question on a different note: if I was to buy a brand of coffee, which brand of coffee should I be buying, Kay?
Well, lucky for you, I have my own coffee called Jittery Joe's Omoiyari. We have an Omoiyari coffee, and it's actually getting us a can release. It's upgraded to a can, and then they just sent me this new design. There's a limited edition like poster design on there too. So it's actually a really delicious coffee. It's actually award winning. It hasn't won an award, but if I could give one, I would give one to this coffee. It's really delicious.
So you're the Sammy Hagar of coffee.
I'm the you mean, what is that? What does that even mean? Like I joined after coffee was created?
What? Okay, I see what you did there.
I don't understand what is the Sammy Hagar of coffee?
The way that Sammy Hagar found the new life and fan base through the tequila. And then after a while, people stopped realizing that he was the guy from Van Halen or the guy saying, I can't drive 55. Right. They were like, oh, yeah, the tequila guy. So you, within a couple of years, are going to be the coffee guy.
Oh, the coffee guy. Wait, Sammy Hagar has a tequila? What's it called?
Cabo Wabo.
Oh, that's him?
That's him. And then he sold off most of it to one of the big spirit consortiums. And then since then, he's launched 3 or 4 more brands. There's one with Guy Fieri. There's one with Rick Springfield.
Okay. Now I understand what you're getting at. Okay, so yeah, I didn't know that he didn't made Cabo Wabo. Yeah, I guess if the coffee became popular enough, yeah, I could be that Asian coffee guy. Paltrocast.